Alright, let's dance, Blue. So I'm creeping into algebra right now as far as my book thesis done. We just got done. I'll show you what I'm dealing with here and get out of the way a little bit. We just got done with some geometry problems, some simple chart tablet conversions. Like you want to not just know where to either find them on the internet, a squared minus b squared, right? You don't have extra players yourself or some mathematician to do the job for you in the code work you're dealing with here, because the A is a teacher. I might say this, depending on what grade I get, 8th grade, ninth grade, 10th grade is tone and frequency as far as putting it on the bunny, but that is the A. It would be gravity in this case of X. The classroom X would be me capitalizing on that, utilizing that energy, and harnessing it in that squared circle ball wave, or the circled squared, however you like to have your nuclear soup going. And just slide out of the way here a little bit. That the reason the A dot, we're saying geometry, A notes, logarithms. Hopefully, you hanging with me. We'll get back to that. We'll do a review of what that what the diagram represents here. Is that X prime a prime observer? We'll get to that. Why this code is broken. We need the gravity of it to sustain this, and leaving it in this form is me going to be hacking that. It's like the a squared is me in 2 seconds, 3 seconds, a month from now. I'm still tall, wide, and pretty at that phase, no matter which two I poke at, a minus b, a plus b, any situation like that to get a square, right? That back to the cone or the cube. It would be 5 times 5 if each length of the side was 5. It'd be 25. 25 surface area there. Yeah, area, not surface area. Surface area are cubes. And so this broken algorithm right here, as far as that photon, gluon, W boson, Z boson, isn't exactly right. It's not pure in terms of the binary calculus. You'll have a problem about getting it out there. Which organization did I see one last time with a plus symbol first and trying to walk these kids down it, or a minus symbol? And was there a parentheses that wasn't built correctly into why that formulas for algebra would be a mechanical law based system? Remember, when you go a, what would be right hand rule, plus minus multiply or divide, we're going to change that geometry around a little bit so that the y student here, that I'm a known value. I'm a teacher. I'm the gravity. The game is kind of to get at least something into that department, something into not teacher, but you are efficient, that I feel better in the woods with you than anybody else. Y prime, right? Okay, so that means that in the same way, I'm a known value, X. Go back to the baseball. I can't just whip them out here, right here. I ain't got the book. But the unprimed value is a student that doesn't know how to do run speed yet, doesn't know how to do their azimuth as far as their walking or running speed, and therefore to a land nav negotiation about what your train features are, because you never trained train features, maybe unprime. And so I have to get that together, that this question that I give you with a student that doesn't understand this yet, to geometry problems, would understand that this line segment has those properties to it. Now there will be other ones, additional A's and Z's, or any combinations of X and X prime and values and weights, because we'll get into that. The surface area of A. As a teacher in this book, I could change that to any triangles, line segment. Well, line segments don't necessarily have areas that are considered in here. The same value goes into that equation. And To Kill a Mockingbird and Lord of the Flies and whatever else we learned from English class can oppose those values and give you a very different range of what the size, the mechanical value, that should IH when you see those things in terms of inches, feet, and meters, because what holds them together other than the faith of A and Z in English language here, or any other language? That trapezoid is me kind of doing something similar to this. I may not be doing exactly the same thing. I'm not trying to run in parody. I wasn't writing it in parody to it to force that horse to work. Try to find examples. Figure, right, Salty? You got to figure that stuff. But it'll get down there about to that question of The surface area, I'm trying to get you back to A, is an area problem with X numbers. I know the numbers to get the A, they're all going to add up that way. The area of a trapezoid in a classroom with length 40 and 30 feet is, well, I didn't give you enough for the trapezoid, but you could model the trapezoid's rectangle as if it was that classroom and therefore some areas, but you don't have any other values. What I want you to find is the area of the classroom, the area on the floor of the rectangle. What is that classroom? See, I said words, changed A, did things. I moved gravity around a little bit. I changed the PRT for what algebra and arithmetic we'll be using next time in terms of its geometry. The area of a triangle, back to a trapezoid, a triangle, whose vectors, I'm really messing with you. Are they the feet that we had before, or are we changing this to grid positions? Is it a type of computer where the terminal is going to change that different? But we're still staying in that binary mechanic of I'm going to progressively get this a little bit harder. For me as a teacher, I don't know what grade I'm dealing with today. I don't know what system that is. So as AX, I would need to interference pattern CMB some stuff and be like, well, if the kids are balls, I have no clue what geometry level they are. I'd first give them the surface area of something simple, like a square, a rectangle, triangle, whatever I got handy to make this up on the books instead of actually physically having nothing of the dark arts. Physically having, we don't want that one. No, we don't want that one. No, we don't want that one. Keep her going here. A setup like this, where great, and you might need to teach that to some kids in a certain class. Just because it's written in the ledger of this wave function doesn't mean it's not polarizing or wave function, right? So you get back up to Sam's house. What is the area of the bathroom in here? I gave you most of the house, right? I gave you what might be and some fancy things to get you distracted inside here about the wave function of the bathroom. Or you like sigma, you find an epsilon sitting down in there dropping a drop. Anyways, moving right along, how we get these kids to get that ball moving in some potential way that is good for the goose, good for the gander, is putting it downrange, making sure that thing hits within the lamnia, not the lambda, the laminar flow or something like that. This is a one-dimensional thing where I got to have the outside edges, make sure it's all squared away. We'll get back into that. Obviously, being time dilated here is a bit of a trick to the square we'll get to in a minute. But they're all still the same thing. The same way you find the square values is one on a circle, but in a lot of ways, the angles that make up that circle. We must have skipped to some things here. At any rate, thought I had those other ones in here. Should have had them. Must be Facebook wouldn't let me post.
Okay, so hey.
For nonsensical reasons. Like this stuff. Imagine not being able to post this stuff and getting stuff going about the demon core or how close something is to you. Anyways. I'm going to need to find some of these factors and formulas. I mean, again, this is maybe a little cleaner. I like that. Bump, 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 bump. And that'll help me get in there. Bump, 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 bump. The end number is this area right here. First lead radiance, maybe a cord, right? You got to hold on to that wire right there. The next part of that is going to be the rings, radials. Maybe it's an ID, OD situation, figuring out the area, knowing the total value, making measurements. Get in that segment, that all that maths, even if I popped out a quarter of it on you and did it, you could still figure it out or at least factor that wedge in time in some ways under that angle right there, theta or whatever. And again, that's going to be to the secants on this thing here, line segments that deal with this to give you actually that secant section, that like that area right here will help me get the minor arc and the major arc. Not that they're necessarily direct, but when we get into this mechanics later about that tangent or that secant point being part of a mechanical operation that moves in this way, this wave function pattern, that the sizes and ranges and armatures are something super useful that you have to understand inside of here. Otherwise, the mechanical engineering isn't wrong. But when you factor why that plastic gear base broke, because it's made out of element A or element B in the periodic table, this being the graduated cylinder, you're going to say is a barometer. It's an indicator of what the atmospheric pressure is as far as what you can do with this. And again, this is pretty heavy for students. The totality narrative for me is probably in a wide direction of whatever I think is relative. And when I see a stone mill in front of me, Chernobyl, or whatever it may have you, I'm going to adjust the terms that A plus B here equals CZ, or at least energy that I can harness off of there by stripping it down into its subparts and then laying them across the table. So, give you some indicators of what I'm doing.